All right. Well, welcome to the podcast, our premiere podcast for our NoobDM channel here on. This is going to go on YouTube, and hopefully we can live some of these from time to time. And we have with us tonight. This is Ariel, NoobDM from Northern California, and with us we have the talented, very talented and lovely Michelle Cram, my friend from Southern California, who is also a Dungeons and Dragons and gaming enthusiast, among other things. Michelle, can you sort of talk briefly to introduce yourself and talk about what you do and just give us a little taste of what you're all about.
Sure. My name's Michelle. Again, I started playing D&D when I was like 14. Strictly 3.5, maybe a little bit of Pathfinder. I never really dove into anything else, read the books or anything like that, but I am familiar enough to try to start DMing. I tried. I think it was successful. We played a game or two.
Yeah.
I DM'd a game for a couple others. Right now I'm just playing a D&D campaign over Zoom with some friends from Wyoming and New York.
Oh, nice.
It's really nice, the virtual aspect that's like put into it. It kind of makes it easier for the turn base because you need everyone to be quiet, and it's actually kind of nice. But I really like with my friends.
Yeah. Do you guys use any specific platform? I know when we were playing a little while ago, we had a small group and we were playing a 3.5 campaign and we used Zoom, if I remember correctly. Do you use Roll20 or have you used any of the software that's available for campaigns nowadays? Because there's so much technology now that we have so many options to actually multiple platforms. So is there anything that you prefer? Or?
So far Zoom's the way to go for me. I know that a lot of people like to imagine where their characters are in relation to the NPCs that they're fighting or like any kind of battle, which is nice.
Yeah.
But with the Zoom, I
a little bit more like
I think we've makeshifted, maps drawn on the screen and things like that. We do that, but I've tried D20. I've tried moving my characters around and stuff.
Oh, you tried D20? Okay. Yeah.
Obviously, you can't do that mobile. Yeah. Is it choppy? Can you hear me? Am I lagging?
Yeah, you kind of froze a little bit for a second, but you're back, So I think it's the internet. I don't know if it was on my end. I thought sometimes it can be stable, But so you were saying you tried the D20, that's interesting because I haven't tried it yet as a player or obviously not running a game or anything like that. But what's your feedback or what do you think of it?
I really liked rolling your dice. I like those algorithms. I thought that was really cool.
Right.
I think that that made it really convenient, especially because you can add it to your stats like right away.
Wow.
That was really convenient, having the papers there, and the DM able to like peep your papers when they need it to.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of cool to have like a little map. But I mean, if you're imaginative enough, Zoom is the way to go.
Right.
Especially with your friends, being able to see each other and talk and like, I don't know. Maybe that's just
No, I think you're right. I was having a blast doing it and I had reservations because, I was playing before COVID. I was in a 5th edition campaign over at our local hobby store. No, I played like a couple of games because wasn't really that familiar with the 5th edition. I'm like old and have like the old school games like 1st and 2nd edition. And actually pretty recently I picked this up, Player's Handbook for 2nd edition. This was pretty expensive, like on eBay because to get a good copy. I mean, you could get kind of a trashy copy, but it was kind of expensive. But I didn't mind getting it because I never played 2nd edition, and I'm dying to either play one or run as a campaign, but I can't find people that want to play the old systems. Everybody's doing like third and above, especially fifth. Everybody's doing kind of like fifth edition now, which is kind of interesting. And I think one of the interesting things that I found playing with like in the middle of June last month, or a couple months now, when they opened up in California, if you wear a mask and social distance and take protocols, then you're okay to be in at a table. And the tables are spaced out, so they have the game store made it available. So it was really interesting to me to see the different. After we played our game, it was third edition, and your style was a little bit more to what I'm used to. And I found out that first of all, I was really impressed by the DMing groups, because we have in the live game that I played, which was fifth edition, it was like really all ages, people from like middle school to like high school, obviously college and above. We had a guy that was closer to my age that he has kids and stuff like that, and everybody was getting along. And I was really impressed how much it's changed in a way, because it's more inclusive. I'll give you an example. I'm talking about it being, and maybe you can chime in and tell me what your experiences are. I know you haven't played fifth edition much, but the new people, or the people that I played with, the younger people, they're like, you roll up a character and they're like, okay, you're done with all your stats and all that stuff. And they're like, so are you a guy or a girl, or are you like non-binary, or like, they had all these choices. And I never thought about that. I was like, I always thought of, because I usually like to play like a fighter or something. I was like, I'm always just a guy or whatever. But that was one thing I noticed, that it was more inclusive. And they're like, we have to know, because we're role playing. It's more role playing than the tactics and battle that I'm used to, So you know what I
okay.
mean?
Yeah.
It was really interesting. So
that
the
is
other
nice to have an updated version.
what's that?
It's nice to have something that's updated like that, where you can
Yeah.
have the choice of playing some other gender. I know a lot of DMs that made it a rule that you
Mhm.
couldn't play a different gender, and I thought that was really odd, because
Yeah.
in a video game or RPG game that I'm playing, like, I could play a guy. Most of the time I am playing a guy.
Yeah. Right.
You know,
Because they don't
so
have they didn't give you a lot of choice back in the day. And I think it goes back a little bit to like first edition, where they had, and second edition too, reading that book, where they have a lot of restrictions, not only on not some restrictions based on gender, because there's the old stereotype, guys are stronger or whatever. But it's a fantasy game, right? You could be anything you want. So I never really understood any restrictions. And then they also had restrictions by class and level, based on some really random things. Like, it's like you could be a fighter and then you could take any class, but then if you wanted to be a dwarf or play something else, there's restrictions in the old games. And I guess the idea was to have it balanced. But I don't know, I haven't played enough third edition to know, is third edition kind of the same, like in terms of having balanced classes, you find, or having any race
fourth,
restriction?
I feel like it is pretty balanced. I
Yeah.
think that it was created in a way where you could start kind of moving stuff around. You can add lists here and there. You can give your players more than they need, because the world could build up to that. And
Yeah.
then you could really fight back and challenge them enough for them to still be interested in the game, without it becoming this like, oh my gosh, I can like kill anything. It's so easy. It's
Yeah.
still a challenge. You can still make them fight 50 dragons if you wanted to. Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
you can,
that's makes it
yeah,
fun, on the tactical. And I know fourth edition, I played fourth edition
yeah.
for a little while, and fourth edition was kind of like third, but the only thing that was different, it was more tactical, where you were almost required for the game to have the battle grid, and that started in third edition, but they kind of really blew it up in fourth edition, where you had the tactical grids and you needed the minis and you had to move stuff around, which it's always been part of the game, but not to that degree where it was so focused on the tactics and the battles. And it was almost like role playing was like secondary. And I think some people didn't really like that too much, which was kind of different from the previous game.
I don't know if it's just me. True. I don't know if it's just me, but there's a lot of aspects of the game I leave out because it
Yeah,
really takes away from the journey and the energy.
yeah.
Because like you could bring it down so quickly by saying like, wait, how much weight have you like been able to carry, or
Oh yeah, yeah,
or things like, yeah, or how much ammo do you really have, and things like that, where I'm
yeah,
like, oh, like we can just say that you drank water today or you fed
right.
your animal. It's cool. Let's just move on.
Yeah, it's almost like there's I totally get what you mean, and I put up the last video on YouTube that I recorded and put on the channel had to do with optional rules for second edition. Because I was reading through that book, I was really into second edition because I'm also playing like Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate 3 just came out, but I'm playing the old games because I never got to play like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. It was like $5 on Steam and stuff. So I was like, oh, I'll play them and check them out. And those games are based on old D&D games, like D&D Second Edition, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Because they have the same battle tactics and stuff. So, but one thing that I found out, and you were talking, just what you were alluding to, was the fact that those, yeah, there's optional rules, and a lot of people, what you're talking about, like people homebrew, they call it the homebrew, where they kind of make
Yeah.
up their own rules, their home rules. And I think that's so much, that's acceptable to me, and so much, like, because yeah, I was reading some of these rules and encumbrance, and there's rules for everything, and it's almost to the point where either you have not enough rules for some people, or you have like way too much that weighs down the game. And I think if you ever play fifth edition, they were trying to get away from that. We're like more accessible. A bunch. There's some rules, but it's not crunchy. Crunchy is a term that they use for like numbers and stats and tables. And you've run third edition campaigns, and third edition can be pretty crunchy if you let it be, in terms of like what the stats are and the mechanics. The weight, the encumbrance, like the weight of what you carry is one thing, and which
And
weapons
most of
belong.
it,
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
most of it becomes secondhand nature. Like you kind of just like get into this habit of like, okay, everybody initiative. Okay, like
Yeah,
give me your hit points for this, like this game, or like just to like keep track of everything. And
yeah,
it just a lot simpler when it becomes a habitual thing. But there's so many that I didn't like, which was like the weight thing. And
yeah. Are there any other rules or mechanics that you weren't really all that fond of that you
um
can think of, like off the top of your head?
no, I think there were feats that we added a couple of
Feet? Okay.
times.
Yeah,
Yeah. A lot of the time there weren't enough feats,
yeah.
I would say. I
That's
don't think
interesting.
there'll
Yeah,
ever be enough feats.
yeah, yeah. I think third edition was the first iteration of the game that brought in the feats, right? Because before that, there's another thing. I was looking at this thing at the second edition book, and I read through it, and there's no skills or feats,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they call them. It's so really weird because they call them weapon proficiencies and non-weapon proficiencies. But if you read through it, the non-weapon proficiencies is just another word for skills. Like you can you're good with climbing a rope, or you're good with dungeoneering, whatever that skill happens to be, archery, whatever. I don't know why they didn't call it skills. I think they were afraid, or maybe some other game was using it, or there was some kind of um uh I don't know why, really. I mean, we'll read through it. That's like non-weapons proficient, that's like 3 words, but skills is just like really easy to know. That's what you're good at and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a good start and discussion. I didn't know. So that game that we were all playing as a group earlier this year, was that the first time you DM, like, you know, in a while, or in a group, or had you done much DMing in the past?
Yeah, only a couple times in the past. I'm still very novice, I believe. I still have a lot of stuff where I lose track of something, or
Yeah.
I'm not giving the right stats to something.
Yeah. Oh, you mean like equipment and magics and all that stuff?
When you're battling something, the
Yeah.
stats that I give it
Oops.
are kind of like very homebrewed.
Yeah. I lost my got a pop-up.
A lot of the way that
Says my connection's a little bit unstable, but I think it's just the streaming part. Yeah. Can you hear me? Am I coming
yeah,
through? Okay.
yes.
I can hear
Every
you.
once in a while, there's a lag.
Yeah. I think it's our the rural counties. We have the ISP sometimes. So you're coming in clear. Sometimes you freeze and then you come back, but most of the time you're pretty good. So
Oh.
well, this is going pretty fast. I wanted to have a discussion about um the game, like our D&D in general, and also like other aspects. Are there any? I mentioned I'm in the Boulder's Gate trip right now. I'm kind of into Boulder's Gate, but the old version, like the enhanced editions that came out around 2012, 2013, around that time. Because the new game was coming up, and I think they wanted to build it up, and they finally out in beta. Are there anything besides on the digital space that you're looking at or like playing or are familiar with right now?
No, actually. The only I'm only doing book-based campaigns, and
Yeah,
I mean, nothing, no RPG games or anything like that.
yeah.
Uh, I hadn't even heard of Boulder's Gate until you mentioned it.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I played Munchkin.
yeah.
Like, as far as as far as like anything else based off of like a D&D kind of thing, they would be that.
Well, there's Munchkin versions for everything. I know there's like Magic, there's Munchkin RPG with the cards, and they kind of like really took advantage of that IP, and got it all ready to go. Yeah, Baldur's Gate. I hadn't really, I forgot about it. I think I had like a demo version of it back in the day because you and I have known each other about 10 years or so. But about 20 years ago I came out around 98, 99. I can't believe it's been that long, but the first game. And it was part of there's a genre of D&D games based on like isometric, where it's almost like Diablo, if you're familiar with Diablo, where it's like two-dimensional as opposed to like the 3D view that we have in the current games. But it's really addictive because it's I don't know how to describe it. You go up, you roll a character, and then you can add a party. But if you have other people that you can play with, you can add other members to your party. But what's cool about it is if you just want to play single player, you can just go into an adventure, and as you're going through your adventure, you pick up party members along the way, and they're pretty fragile. Like the first time I had to replay like the first scenario because people died. It's like one lady in the inn joined the party, and she was like, oh, she's like an NPC, computer control NPC, and she got killed like on the first battle. And I was like, she shows up on the party list, but she's dead. And then there was and I was like, I don't know what to do next in this game. Like I had to go on YouTube and look at some tutorials because like half the party was dead. And I was like, well, do I just delete them or like add new characters? I don't know. It was really weird.
When don't you like look up things like that? I remember when video games came with a booklet.
Yeah.
You can just read through what
levels. Yeah. Well, the Boulder's Gate.
They came out with the magazines, and you'd get like samples on games and.
Yeah.
Oh no, I lost you. Can you hear
me? You were breaking up a little bit, but you're back now. Yeah. Yeah. So you were talking about the booklets.
Yeah, they have books for things like that. You could I remember we had like a GTA hardback book.
Oh yeah, like a strategy guide
or a cheat codes and like.
I remember those. Yeah, back in the day, you could get. I still have like a World of Warcraft Brady guide that I got in Houston for like $1, but I never played World of Warcraft to the point where I was like rating or like top tier or anything. I just thought it was cool because it had all the maps and it was full color, and I paid like $1 for it because nobody at that time, like the new expansion was out, so nobody was playing like the basic game and stuff. But Yeah, I remember those books were cool. And the Boulder's Gate that I downloaded, I was talking about, you can get it on Steam. It was on special for like $5. And when you download the game and the expansions, it comes with a little manual. It's like a PDF, so you can read the PDF if you want to. But
Yeah.
I just don't have a lot of time to go through it. So I'd rather watch like the YouTube stuff, you know. So real quick, let's talk about third edition, because you know this system rather well.
3.5.
3.5, that's right. This is 3.5. So if you play 3.5, you're probably familiar with Pathfinder, which is kind of like extended on that. What are some of the things about running a 3.5 game, since that's the system that you know and you like? What are some of the things that that you think it does really well, and that because some people are not even sure whether they, I mean, if they play it and sit down, I'm sure that they would enjoy it, but some people are like, you know, I'm so comfortable running like 5th edition now. So what are some of the mechanics that you like or that attract you to the system, or that you think that it does well, I guess?
I think it does a good job simplifying it, but at the same time keeping it complex enough so that you can manipulate it.
Yeah.
And I say that because I really love that you have everything on one page.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
front and back, you're like good.
Right.
You can.
We're talking about the character sheet, right? You can just flip back. Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
really build your character on everything that they give you. You don't
Yeah.
need a lot. So you got your skills, your stats, the specialties for each character, your feats,
Yeah.
your load, your money, everything that you would need. And
Right.
then how they organize the book as well. It's
Yeah.
so easy to just go from page to page and just go in order. I
Right.
need this now. Okay, what's the next step? I need this now. And after you're done rolling everything and buying all of your equipment, and you're good to go. And
Yeah.
you can start so quickly. I
Right.
feel with the others, it's gotten to the point where you pretty much spend one game making the character,
Yeah.
and then the next games you play.
Yeah. I
But
haven't played. Go ahead.
I find with the 3.5, it's
Yeah.
easy enough to just make the character and then go into the game. You
So
can do it pretty quickly.
yeah, I agree. And having played both versions, like the 5e that's out now and the 3.5, I see a lot of similarities in where they were trying to make it that quick. You know, just bam, you can get a build. Like even in 5e, you can get a build like a pre-made, and it's like these are all the stats. But I kind of don't like that. I kind of like going and rolling for your stats and going through the whole process. It takes a little bit longer in 3.5, but it's very satisfying to choose your skills and choose your weapons and all that stuff. So as a player, not as a DM, as a player, what kind of characters do you prefer? Were you more a tank person, like a warrior type, or were you more like magic user, or what kind of character do you like playing?
I think I started fighter. That's just like the
Fighter.
go-to.
Yeah.
Fighter, so like good. And then I moved to rogue. Then I started going into the sorceress. Every girl does.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you go into any other character. So I did monk, I did druid, I've done, I think, yeah, I'm playing a barbarian in this game
Oh,
with my
nice.
friends on the Zoom, and I've played pretty much all, but I really enjoy the rogue.
Yeah. That's one character class that yeah, it's like sneak attacks. Sneak attacks definitely has some advantages. Well, believe it or not, we're almost out of time. The time has flown by. Maybe we'll make it twice as long, or we'll do a second part to this later when we'll both have time. And I invited Chuck, who was in our party. I don't think he's available tonight, obviously, but maybe we can get Chuck to chime in next time and join us and give us his opinion, because he's been playing almost as long as we have, I think, you know. So I thank you, Michelle, so much for contributing. And this was fun. I hope I had a whole agenda, but I think next time we'll try to extend it out and see what we can do. And we'll post it on the YouTube. I'll put a link on the description once I'll have it all set up, and I'll send you the link, and people will be able to go in there and check out, you know, this initial podcast, the initial crash, and future ones that we do. All right. Well, have a good night. Thanks for joining. It's good to see you.
too, have a
Take
good
care. Stay safe.
one.
Bye.
Bye.